Welcome to the IES live stream, Howard.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Greg?
Hi, good to have you. I've been talking to you for over a year now, trying to get you on the show, and I guess we just got to get your background. You've been in lighting how long?
Been in lighting about 30 years.
30, okay. And
That's it, eh?
That's it, yes. Interesting history. Why did I get into lighting? That's probably the first question.
Let's do it.
It's very simple. I was unemployed.
Okay.
Me too.
Now, I had been a director at a division of Northern Telecom, which at that time was a Canadian phone company. They had 5 subsidiaries in the U.S., and I was involved in one. And due to a whole lot of perturbations and DOE consent decrees, DOJ consent decrees, they combined a number of functions, and all of a sudden I found my job had been combined with another guy. He was Canadian, I was US, it was a Canadian company. So bye-bye, which I'm not complaining about that because they treated us very nice. So fortunately, I had been very active in the IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, made a lot of contacts. One very important contact was a guy by the name of Bob Galvin, who at that time was CEO of Motorola.
Okay.
This is in the days of snail mail. So I sent him snail mail. And let me reintroduce myself. Here's where we met, what we talked about. I need your help. Bottom line, that led to my getting an interview and getting a job at this brand new division of Motorola called Motorola Lighting. So I'm coming in for the interview. Okay. They take me up to a vice president's office in the corporate tower, sit me down, vice president's in the meeting. He'll be here in a few minutes. I'm staring at the blank wall. There's an absolutely clean desk. There's one thing on the desk. It's a copy of Energy Users News. So picked it up, read it, and there's this article about electronic fluorescent ballasts and all the reliability and quality problems they're having. That's fine. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about in the interview. So we go to lunch, 2 vice presidents badger me with questions. I must have passed their muster, and they said, okay, now we'll tell you what we're talking about. And it was Motorola Lighting, going to be designing and manufacturing high performance, highly reliable electronic fluorescent ballasts. We talked for a while. I remembered the article. I came up with a comment. It was something like, you know, I understand there are a lot of reliability and quality problems in the field. And Motorola, with its reputation for reliability and quality coming into this field, should be able to take over the field immediately. I think that one comment got me a job offer. And the only reason I made it is because I read the article in the newspaper. So I was the 15th employee of Motorola Lighting. That was in 1989. We grew to the point where we were in our best year, shipping 13 million electronic fluorescent ballasts, primarily rapid start with instant start. Then Motorola decided to go back to its roots, which didn't include lighting, put the unit up for sale. There were 5 suitors. Turns out the best one was the one who bought it, which was Osram Sylvania. Stayed there for another 8 years. And in 2008, I took a buyout, started my consulting business. So I'm now almost in my 12th year of consulting.
What year did Osram buy Motorola? What year was that again?
That was 2000.
You know, I sold a ton of Motorola ballasts, actually. That was my first year in lighting. I sold a ton of them. So tell me a little bit then, what was the transition from the Motorola culture, which is a electronics manufacturing company, to the Osram culture, which is a lighting manufacturer?
Well, not only that transition, but the transition from an American-owned company to a German-owned company. The cultures are different. You learn how to adapt. It's either that or you don't have a job anymore.
Sure.
Osram Sylvania was a well-established long-term company, primarily headquartered outside of Boston. They had their own way of doing things, their own succession plans, their own little cliques. I found that by doing my job and trying not to get political, we got along well.
Now you're seeing some of that going on again. It seemed like it kind of steadied out for a while in lighting, and now it's going back to where companies are spinning their divisions off and selling their lighting.
In I took the buyout in 2008, and the chaos started about that time.
Mhm.
It did slow down, but now if you look at what's going on uh, with the major companies, some of them not making their numbers, which means either if they're a division of another company, they're going to be put up for sale or they're going to have layoffs. Chaos is going on in the industry. We've got, of course, the significant impact of offshore companies in the industry. Uh, Lighting has always had a challenge. It does not have a high perceived value because it's always there.
Hmm.
You turn on a light switch, what happens? The lights go on.
It's not a consumer product in a way, even though you sell light bulbs to consumers in a way. I remember years ago meeting a guy from one of the majors, and he was talking about, yeah, people are going to replace their light bulbs as they upgrade, just like they do their phones. And I went, I don't think so, buddy. I think when the burns out, they're going to replace it. And I think that's going to be 90%. I think you're right. It is a consumer product, but it doesn't have the characteristics of a consumer product.
And when CFL lamps, let's say, equivalent of a 60-watt fluorescent, 800, 810 lumens, when they first came out, or rather LEDs, they were in the $40, $50 price range.
Hmm.
So
Are we talking CFLs or LEDs?
LEDs.
Because I think the CFLs were in the $80, $90 price range when they first came out.
Were they that
Back in the 90s,
yeah.
early 90s or whatever. Yeah, you'd buy these like kits and put them together and reflectors on them and stuff. I don't
I do
remember
remember
that.
that. Yeah.
But they dropped well, and they were major energy savings, but there was a quality of light issue with them.
Mm. The LEDs or the
The
CFLs?
CFLs.
Yeah.
So LEDs came along, they solved or addressed most of the quality of light issues. There are some people who say they didn't,
And
but
they
overall
introduced a
did.
whole bunch of other quality problems like flicker and stuff like that in the beginning.
Correct. And then they, when the LEDs came out, their prices were in the $40, $50 range. Today, with the rebate from your local electric utility, you can buy an 800 lumen LED for $1.50.
You can buy one without the rebate for $1.50, actually.
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the manufacturer.
Mm.
Yeah. So a lot of people have replaced incandescents with LEDs before the incandescents burn out
Mm.
because of the energy savings.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've pretty well hit the bottom in terms of the improvements in energy savings. So now we got to look at NIBs, non-energy benefits of going to LED lighting, to controllable lighting. People, is it going to make your employees, if you're a company, is it going to make your employees' productivity go up?
Ooh.
Do you believe that, Howard?
Ooh.
Do you
I
believe that? It's,
Proper lighting, yes.
Good lighting design is always good for people.
I'll give an minor example. One
But
of
actual measurable productivity gains?
well, we'll leave with it this way. One of our sons is a medical doctor, and he works for a large medical consortium. So they came into the office and they upgraded the office. They went from 4-lamp T12s with a magnetic ballast to 4-lamp T8s with an electronic ballast. So my next visit in the office, I'm talking to the nurses, and I walk into the nurses' area. It's too bright, way too bright. I said, "How you guys doing? Anybody get tired? Eye strain, headaches?" A couple of nurses said, "Yeah, how did you know that?" Next week, I came back with a light meter. I measured it, and yeah, it was, I don't know, 150 lumens or something like that at desktop height. The practice manager was there, and we had a discussion. She thanked me for giving her the measurement number. She said, "Now I can go back to our facilities people and tell them they need to do something."
Mhm.
I said, "Well, there are proper ways of doing it, and there are easy and inexpensive ways of doing it." I said, "I'll predict what they're going to do." These were, of course, instant start parallel ballasts. They're going to remove a lamp. That's exactly what they did.
Mhm.
It did drop the light intensity. And for those of us who are lighting geeks, you look up in the ceiling, you look at the 4-lamp luminaire, and there's a lamp missing. It bothers us.
Mhm.
But in terms of the users who don't look up, they don't care. It was successful in that respect.
I'm going to push back on you on this a little bit. I had a customer do this. We were renovating the warehouse of this it's a third-party logistics firm. So all they do is ship other people's products, right? And he had this one accountant lady that was complaining about headaches and that the lights were bothering her. So he said, yeah, no worries. I'm going to have lighting solutions is coming in, and they're going to come in next week, and they're going to do lighting. I'll make sure they do something about the light in your office. Okay.
Mhm.
They didn't do anything. The next day, he told his employee, yeah, the guy came in and he fixed the Whistle Dog wing banger on the Nintendo 64 Genesis thing, and it's a lot better now. And she's like, oh yeah, I feel so much better. So he called me back a week later, and he told me that he didn't do anything to the light, and that the lady reported that her headaches and that were gone. You understand what I mean? Like, there's like, and he was laughing about this. He thought it was hilarious because he thought it was just all crap. But now I'm not saying that there isn't actual real things that you can do, but there's also this idea that people like to complain about lighting. It's too bright. It's not bright enough.
Is it lighting or just complaining?
Yeah, people like to complain, right?
Yeah.
And so this one president of a company is like, this lady's a complainer. What am I going to do? Oh, the lighting guys are doing the warehouse anyway. So now she's been complaining for 2 years. So he tells her that we did something. We didn't do anything. And she's happy now.
I'll give you another example.
Oh, so you agree with me?
No, I was, as I said, I'm very active in the IEEE.
Sure.
So I think this was after I was on the board of directors, but I'm in the IEEE headquarters in New Jersey, talking with the facilities manager, director, who's become a good friend of mine. And we go into the computer control room. And now this operates 24/7 with about 7 operator positions. So we've got different people. And he said, yeah, they're always complaining it's too bright, it's not bright enough. I said, I got an idea. I said, let me talk to a few manufacturers. We'll get a router, we'll get some paracubes, we'll get dimmable fluorescent ballasts, and we'll get the software so that on each one of their computers, there's to be a slider so they can adjust the light level of the light above their position. We put that in there. They loved it because particularly if you're younger, you don't need as much light typically.
Okay.
If you're older, if you're my age, you damn well need more light. And they loved it. It was individual user satisfaction. And that's very important in terms of productivity. If people don't get bothered by too much light, not enough light, glare, flicker, their productivity is indeed going to go up because they're going to be focusing on their work.
What is IEEE's primary focus in lighting or primary goal with lighting? What are they?
Well, you have the 1789. It's 1789 standard. Is that the right?
1789.
Yes.
Yeah. I was the secretary of that committee that developed that.
And that's the one that talks about the flicker.
That's correct. It was health effects of flicker in high brightness LEDs. And it took us about 4 years to develop that. We had lighting companies, we had engineers, we had medical professionals, we had scientists involved from all over the world. And it came out with a very conservative approach that says if you follow this guideline, you don't have to worry about people having epileptic seizures or having headaches, et cetera, et cetera. And a number of the lighting manufacturers came back and pushed back on that and said, well, we have products in the field for years that don't agree with that, and we don't have any problems. So NEMA then came up with NEMA 77 as a response to that, which has some guidelines, but it also says that for specific applications, more numbers or more requirements are needed. But the initial purpose of IEEE 1789 was to put something out in the field and shake up people and get them to start doing things. So it accomplished its purpose.
Do you think flicker is an issue today still in lighting?
It depends on the product. So there's so much emphasis on, bottom line, on lowest cost for a product that if you don't put in the proper circuitry to minimize flicker, you're going to have more flicker, and it may affect people.
Do you think there'll ever be a time where you go back into a facility that has flickering LEDs and replace by non-flickering LEDs?
Unlikely, unless somebody really complains about it.
Do you think there should be a recall?
No.
No?
No, recalls are very interesting. You do them primarily for safety reasons. That's the primary reason for a recall, unless there's a major performance or functional problem. And I doubt that there would be that type of a recall.
But you think it's with that standard, people at least acknowledge it now, and there's products starting to be made that are advertised as flicker free.
One of the major companies at Light Fair last year, earlier this year, was advertising products that comply with IEEE 1789. So it's doable.
Let me ask you, just to loop back on what we were talking about earlier. Do you believe that we are going to have, so Greg and I always say that we're in the trenches. So we go out and we sell light bulbs and lighting systems to people that actually use them. We're interacting with the end user on a regular basis. And right now, the end user is very aware of the energy efficiency of LEDs. They're largely unaware of IoT and the health effects of lighting. There's no like, do you ever get asked by a customer, Greg, to, can you give me a circadian effective system, or can you give me a never, right?
No.
So that hasn't trickled down to the end users yet. Whereas people call you up, I want LEDs, I want 5,000K, and then even have some people say, I want flicker free. So it's trickled down. Do you think this industry will have measurable, certain statistics on lighting that people in the trenches can go and stand in front of a customer and with a straight face, press hands together, make a deal on something that's going to improve their productivity, and we'll be able to measure it?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of research going on, a lot of work going on. It takes a while to validate research.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asks me, is blue light good or bad?
Well, the sun's
Answer in one word.
can't. It's not
My
possible.
word is yes.
Yes
It's
to
either
both.
good or
Yes.
bad, depending upon
Yes,
what your application
that's
is.
a good answer. Yeah,
Right.
right. Exactly. That's the only answer.
Yeah.
Are you aware of Adam Lillian at the UL?
No, I'm not.
So we talked to him on our podcast, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and he had said that he or his team or someone at UL had reviewed over 100 or 200 reports, studies on classrooms and Windows, and they found that across all these reports that students with Windows, a lot of natural light, performed at some statistically significant better level than children that are in classrooms without Windows. And they couldn't find that it was a correlation. They don't know if the windows were causational, or if there's sunlight, or if it's the view outside, or they don't know what's causing it, but they know that there's this statistically significant correlation between windows and classrooms and children and their performance in school. What he found was interesting, and what I think to me really stood out was he said within this study, there were a couple studies that not only had children with windows, but also had children with solo tubes,
Mhm.
right? So you couldn't see outside, but you were delivering natural light to the space. And I can't remember if those children performed the same as the one with windows or what the deal was, but there was a statistically significant difference between the children with the solo tubes and the children without windows in their classrooms or any natural light. What's that about?
Well, I, I was going to suggest or comment that what they needed is a design of experiment that took into account all of these variables. It's a complex experiment,
Might
but
even be a legal experiment too. I don't know if you could even do it, could you?
well, that's a good question.
Is it ethical to
If
do
you're a
that?
parent and well, my son may not perform as well as his friends because he's got different conditions. You're going to be
Sure.
upset about that
Mm-hmm.
because today there's so much competition in academics for performance. But maybe it's assuming that the solar tube maintains the broad spectrum of sunlight, the spectral distribution. Maybe that's the reason. I like the solar tube idea because I was going in that direction as you were talking. That eliminates the view. Is it because it's pretty outside? What's the reason?
Mhm.
It brings in the sunlight into a closed room. So I think that's a very significant step in demonstrating that there appears to be some good correlation there.
I kind of, in my mind, so I kind of think about, I lie in my bed and I think about this kind of stuff at night. And, I don't know if I was drinking or not when I thought about this one, but what it kind of occurred to me was, and I said this on the show before, and I said it on the earlier live stream. The way where we're at with light right now is kind of like like fish discovering they're in water in a way, right? We're just learning actually what light is. And did you hear Neil Harbison this morning?
Yes, I did.
I mean, that was pretty unbelievable. With that when he showed the sound of color, and he started showing those colors and the sound, the notes were
Mhm.
changing. The room went completely silent, man. You could have heard a pin drop in that room when he was doing that. Was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. But it's kind of like we're swimming in light in a sense. It's like our water, like fish to water. And when you this electric light or artificial light or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of like an aquarium in a way. It's kind of like building an aquarium for fish. Sure, you can measure the salt water, you can put that coral light in there, you can do all these different things which will mimic the environment, but it's never as good as the real environment. And, my whole life, I've been told that sunlight is bad for your skin and bad for your eyes. But now what I'm hearing from a lot of people is actually, no, sunlight's very good for you. And it's just how you interact with the sun that matters. What's the answer to that question?
Well, another corollary is water is bad for you. If you drink 50 gallons of water, you're going to drown inside.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, yeah, I get that, but
Yeah, an overage of anything,
Mhm.
sunlight. Yeah, why is it bad for you? Well, because you get sunburned because of a high UV. Well, maybe you put out something to prevent that, or you limit the exposure that
Wear
you
a
have
shirt and a
to it.
hat, or a long
Yeah,
sleeve shirt and a hat.
yeah.
But are we like when we're trying to make these technologies mimic that light? Is that even possible?
When is good enough? I'm an
Mm,
engineer,
Mhm.
and in theory, it's never going to be good enough. But you put a stake in the ground and say, hey, we're 95% there. It's good enough.
mm.
Now, will we get to that point? Hopefully, we will. There's a lot of research going on, a lot of stuff going on in CIE in an international basis.
Hmm.
Uh,
You're involved in so many. We looked at your LinkedIn page before you came in. You're heavily involved in the writing of standards.
correct.
Like that's what you do basically now.
That was, yeah, I'm involved in that right now as a consultant. I'm also involved in some marketing of lighting products.
Hmm.
To coin a phrase, when you become a consultant, you become a whore. People will pay you whatever they pay you for, you do, as long as it's ethical and honest. That's part of
Sure.
my belief. I will not accept a job if it's not ethical or if it's not honest. I had one person that I know very well talk to me on the phone and wanted me to write a paper saying that a particular subject was not desirable because this person happened to not like it. And she wanted to go with her company and say that. I said, well, I can't agree with that hypothesis. So thank you very much, but I'll back down on this one. I'm not going to do it.
Hmm. If you could write a standard, if there's one standard that you could come out with, or if there's one metric that you could create or you could see put through, what would it address?
That's a good question.
That's
My,
two now.
yeah, two good questions.
Two beers
Okay.
you owe me.
Tally him up.
What's your goal for the day?
16.
My standards development work has been primarily in the area of ANSI lighting standards, IEEE standards, CSA standards, UL standards. Uh, the UL standards, of course, are focused on safety. The CSA have safety, and they also have significant work on energy performance standards. Uh, ANSI standards are not safety focused, they're focused on technical performance. Uh, it's such a good question. It's such a broad field that I would
Like the
like to
crowning
see
achievement
us,
of a career
a
here.
career, would be to develop, yes, a measurable standard that demonstrates lighting performance improvements or performance improvements based on lighting,
Human performance
human
improvement.
performance. Yeah.
You would do real well if you could do that for us. We would all do real well.
Yes.
The lighting industry as a whole.
That's what you call a reach out goal.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh man, Howard, I'm telling you, if that, so you look at something here. I mean, it's like real quick here.
Yeah.
So like CRI is a linear scale, right? But so color rendering index, right?
Hmm.
But we're about to go in and see the wonderful room that they've created here at the IES convention to demonstrate TM30. Did I got that right? TM30,
Correct.
the new standard on color or the emerging standard on color measurement. Is that a better way to put it?
Yeah, with 99 color palettes.
Right. But what it is like color has a texture. It has a depth. It's like it's a three-dimensional thing. Color, maybe four. With Harbison, maybe it's 17 dimensions.
It's musical.
It's like that was mind blowing,
Yeah,
dude.
for sure.
Like when he did that, I was blown away. But the human performance metric, What is it? What is it? What do you? And when you imagine it, can you see it in your mind already?
You try to visualize that, and it's one of the analogies I try to use is in the retail business. You've got two diametrically opposed goals.
No. What are those?
Well, you've got the facilities manager. What's his goal? To minimize the cost.
Sure.
Yeah.
You've got the marketing manager. What's his or her goal? To maximize the sale of products by putting them in their best mode, best appearance,
Sure.
etc. I want more light. I want spotlights. I want this color.
I want
that.
depth. I want to have variation. I want, yeah, for sure.
So you've got those two competing goals.
Sure.
And who wins? I don't know.
It depends on the institution or the company or whatever.
I think it's also a function of where in the hierarchy of pricing of products are they. The higher priced products, the marketing manager is probably going to win. In the lower priced products,
big box store,
big stock stores,
yeah,
then the facilities manager is going to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless it's the meat department.
So you just brought up a great point. So we said we want to have a standard where we can measure human performance. But selling stuff. I mean, lighting designers are already doing that. They're already giving people lighting designs that show off products better, that make a person more comfortable in a store, that make you attracted to products and move you towards them. A lot of things are going online now, so there may, however that works. So there's sales. But then there's also human health and human comfort. There's where do we?
Well, I think to chime in, it's going to be difficult to ever measure because everyone's going to react differently. The only way to do it is to have,
no, this light is good for you, Greg.
The only way to do it is have individually controlled lighting that each one of us controls over where we're at this time. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah, and it's not just controlling the intensity, but it's controlling the white color, the spectrum, etc. So it's going to take 2 or 3 controls for each person to adjust until they get to their own comfort level.
I've said it before. We just need our own floating. Maybe Neil Harbison can help, but our own floating light above us, and whatever we do, turn off everything else. You walk around with your light that you want at that time.
I think that's called a halo.
A halo. Let's do it.
It's interesting. Like you think about this, but what I often say is when you're looking at a problem, okay, we want healthy lighting. We want healthy lighting. Well, do we have examples of really unhealthy lighting? And I think the best example of unhealthy lighting is if you were to go and find out whoever the guy was in the 1950s or 60s or 70s, whenever they figured it out, that started designing casinos. And he figured out, or she figured out, that if you shine vertical, high color temperature light into someone's eyes, they'll give you their paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, so we know, like, if you walk into a casino is basically a circadian rhythm disruptor. That's basically what casinos do. They take no windows, all this oxygen, and they shine vertical, high Kelvin temperature light in your eyes. When you're and you're like, the light's coming at you, and you're like, oh, my paycheck, sure. Here's my pay, right? And but so what's the opposite of that?
That's your third good question.
Boom!
You're working your way. 15 more, buddy.
The opposite of that would be, well, again, it depends on your goal. They're achieving their goal. They want to keep you in that casino as long as possible, because the longer they keep you there, the more you're going to gamble and the more you're going to lose.
Sure.
So what's the opposite of that goal? Well, if bad lighting in there would be, it's lower color temperature, the intensity isn't as much, you're going to get tired faster and you're going to leave. But they've learned that that's not what they want to do. They want the opposite. For them, their goal is, as you said, high intensity, high color temperature, keep you there, keep you awake.
Howard, anything else you'd like to share with the listeners? Probably a couple hundred people listening to this right now.
Just that we are definitely in a time of change in the lighting industry. Change can be terrifying. Change can be exciting. Change creates opportunity. And if you don't recognize the opportunity and change with it, you're out.
The great Jordan Peterson, a Canadian professor, he should win he's the world's foremost public intellectual right now. Very controversial guy. I don't know why, but his line is that opportunity lurks where responsibility is abdicated. Folks, thank you for listening to the IES 2019 conference live stream. This second episode is brought to you by Kurtzon Lighting. Go to KURTZON.com. Greggy, go there.
I always go there. Specification grade, 121 years. I did the math.
Good for you, Greg.
Thanks,
Good for
guys.
you. I think
I
it's
can figure it out.
121 because you said 1898.
Yeah, that's what I said, 121.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
Long time in business.
Yeah, we thank Andrew at Kurtzon, and for guys, listen, Kurtzon's rocking out the specification grade fixtures. If you need the quality, if you got some serious applications where you need a reliable light fixture, you got to go to Kurtzon.com. That's KURTZON.com, baby. Thank you to the IES, and of course, most of our gratitude is owed to you, the listener, the watcher, wherever you are out there. We really appreciate it. Thank you for now. We'll see you again at what, 3:45, Greg?
2:15, I think.
Someone's got to get it right. Scotty, put it out there when we're going to be on next. But for
Okay.
now, we're out. Thanks for listening, guys and gals.